Hello, my name's Miles. I'm 23, fresh out of a mechanical engineering degree, and I still have no clue what to do with it. The last few years blurred by in a small college town in Ohio. I scraped by in a cramped apartment off campus, living on instant noodles and all-nighters, cramming for exams. Life was a whirlwind of deadlines, tests, and the occasional bar night with my best friend Jasper. He's the kind of guy who lights up a room with a quick grin and a well-timed joke, always ready to pull me out of my shell. We met freshman year in a physics class we both barely passed, and since then, we've been inseparable. He's like the brother. I never had the one who shows up at 2 in the morning with a pizza when I'm drowning in code or stress. But that night, everything felt different. It was our graduation party, a big shared bash for Jasper, me, and a few other friends. We'd rented the covered patio of a local spot just outside town. The kind of place strung with twinkling lights between wooden beams, long tables draped in white linens, and a Bluetooth speaker pumping out 2000's pop hits. The air smelled of grilled burgers and summer grass. The crowd friends, a few professors, hummed with laughter and clinking glasses. I stood at the edge of the patio, soda in hand, watching Jasper work the room like he was born for it. Dressed in a navy blazer, tie already loose, he was spinning some story that had everyone doubled over. I smiled to myself. Jasper at his best. Then I saw her, Nora, Jasper's mom. She stood alone by the open bar, a glass of white wine in her hand. She was 42, but you'd never guess it from the way she carried herself. She wore a simple, sleeveless black dress that hugged her waist just enough to show she took care of herself. Her blonde hair, cut shorter than I remembered, barely brushed her shoulders, and her brown eyes caught the glow of the string lights. I'd known her since high school, back when she'd drop off cookies at our place for Christmas holidays, or ask me to feed her cat, Whiskers, when she was out of town. She even taught me how to tie a tie before prom, her quick, steady hands knotting the fabric while I fumbled, and she laughed with that warm, open sound. Back then, she was just Mrs. Harlan, Jasper's mom. Always kind, but distant, untouchable, like all parents are. But tonight, something had shifted. Maybe it was the dress, or the way she leaned against the bar, one hand on the counter, relaxed but carrying a quiet weight. Maybe it was the divorce. Jasper had mentioned it in passing, his dad had moved across the country, and Nora was finding her way. I'd never really thought about it before that moment. Watching her sip her wine, her gaze drifting over the crowd like she was part of it, but not quite. I caught myself staring, my soda warming in my palm, and for the first time, I didn't see Jasper's mom. I saw a woman, beautiful, confident, but shadowed by something solitary. I shook my head, trying to snap out of it. This was Nora, the one who'd busted Jasper and me for raiding her fridge at 17, the one who sent birthday cards every year with a crisp 20 tucked inside. But no matter how hard I tried to look away, my eyes kept drifting back. To the curve of her fingers around the glass, the faint smile that curved her lips when someone passed and said hello. My stomach twisted, a mix of guilt and a feeling I wouldn't name. I turned away, focusing on the cupcake table, forcing myself to act normal. Then Jasper appeared, clapping my shoulder. "Hey Miles, you planning to stand there all night? Or are you finally gonna mingle?" He flashed that big grin, tie fully undone now. I laughed, shoving him lightly. Not all of us are born showmen, man. He dragged me toward a group of friends, and I followed, faking my way into the chatter. But my mind wandered. Every few minutes, I'd glance toward the bar, and once, just once, Nora's eyes met mine. It was quick, a flash, but it hit me like a jolt. She didn't smile, didn't wave, just held my gaze a second too long before looking away. My heart pounded, and I couldn't explain why. I told myself it was nothing, a weird moment we'd laugh about later. But as the night wore on, the music cranking up, the crowd thinning, I couldn't shake the sense that something had shifted, like a door I'd never noticed cracking open. And I didn't know if I wanted to step through or slam it shut. The patio pulsed with laughter and the chime of glasses. The string lights cast a soft glow over the group. The 2000's playlist had eased into slower tracks, a nostalgic ballad that thickened the air, making it feel more intimate. I lingered by the dessert table, pretending to debate between a cupcake and a brownie. In truth, I was just trying to regroup. That glance from Nora at the bar replayed in my head, those brown eyes holding mine a beat too long, like she'd seen something I hadn't meant to show. I told myself to drop it. Focus on the party. On Jasper. On the fact that we'd just graduated and real life was finally starting. But my eyes kept finding her. She was still at the bar, chatting with one of Jasper's professors now. Her head tilted slightly as she listened, her wine glass nearly empty. She laughed at something he said, a quiet, polite sound. But her posture had softened, less guarded than I remembered. Like the past year had carved something new into her. I caught myself staring again, my fingers tightening on my soda can. This was ridiculous. She was Nora, Jasper's mom, the one who'd caught us sneaking out at midnight and grounded us both. But the way she moved, the way her dress caught the light, made it impossible to box her into that. I needed a distraction. I scanned for Jasper, but he was across the patio, arms slung around a buddy, belting out another loud story. I sighed and headed to the bar for a refill. I'd grab another soda and get out of my head. Nora was still there, alone again, swirling the last sip of wine in her glass. I hesitated, my steps slowing. But she looked up before I could turn back. "Miles," she said, her voice warm, laced with something else. "Amusement, maybe? Trapped by the cupcakes? Or just hiding?" I laughed, caught off guard, rubbing the back of my neck. "A bit of both, I guess. You know me, crowds aren't my thing." She smiled, fine lines crinkling at the corners of her eyes. The kind of smile that made you feel seen. Like she was really looking at you. "You've survived worse," she said, her tone teasing but gentle. "Like that time I caught you and Jasper raiding my beer stash." I groaned, the memory flooding back like a wave. "You'll never let me live that down, will you?" She arched a brow, sipping her wine. "Not a chance. But you look sharper these days. That tie, you do it yourself?" I glanced down at my navy tie, the one I'd wrestled with for 20 minutes before the party. "Yeah," I said, grimacing a little. "Thanks to you. You're the one who taught me." Her smile deepened, and she leaned against the counter, her fingers brushing the stem of her glass. "I remember," she murmured, her voice lower now. "I remember more than you think." The words landed softly, but they carried weight I couldn't ignore. My throat tightened, and I didn't know how to respond. The music, the chatter, the clink of glasses, it all faded. Like the world had narrowed to just us, standing there, still. I cleared my throat, trying to keep it light. "Guess I owe you more than Thai lessons then." She tilted her head, her eyes searching mine. For a second, I thought she'd say more, something that would pull us into uncharted territory. But she just nodded, her lips curving slightly. I suppose the silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was charged. Like the air before a storm. I felt my pulse in my fingertips. And I knew I needed to get out, find Jasper, do anything but let this moment stretch. I turned to grab a soda from the counter. "Gonna get a drink?" I started. But her hand brushed my elbow so lightly I almost imagined it. I froze, turning back to her. She was closer now, her face half lit by the lights. Her expression was unreadable, but not closed off. "Miles," she said, her voice low, nearly swallowed by the music. "You don't have to run." It wasn't a command or a plea, just a soft, deliberate truth that squeezed my chest. I nodded, my voice unreliable, and stayed put. The soda forgotten in my hand. We stood side by side, the crowd flowing around us like a river around stones. We didn't talk, but the quiet said plenty. It wasn't the kind you fill with small talk. It was the kind that holds something bigger, something waiting to break free. And for the first time, I let myself imagine diving into that space, seeing where it led, even if it scared me half to death. The music throbbed across the patio, that slow 2000s ballad blending with the murmurs and laughs of the party. The string lights swayed gently in the evening breeze, washing the long tables and half-empty plates in warm light. I stood at the bar, my soda can cold in my palm. The touch of Nora's hand still lingered on my elbow like a quiet burn. Her words hung in the air. "You don't have to run," soft but heavy, pulling me into a moment I didn't know how to handle. She was right beside me, her shoulder so close I could feel her warmth. Her empty wine glass sat on the counter. The crowd moved around us, oblivious. But it felt like we were in a bubble, cut off from the noise. I turned to her, scrambling for something to say, anything to keep from slipping into dangerous ground. "Having a good time?" I asked. My voice sounded lame even to me. Nora's lips curved into a knowing little smile, like she saw right through my safe play. "It's a nice night," she replied, her brown eyes catching the light. "Better than I expected." There was a pause. Then she leaned in a fraction, her voice dropping so low only I could hear. "You've been watching me all evening, Miles. Don't think I didn't notice." My heart stuttered, then raced. I opened my mouth to deny it, to laugh it off, but the words stuck. She wasn't accusing, wasn't mocking, just stating a fact, calm and direct. I swallowed hard, my grip denting the can. I didn't mean to. I started, but she cut me off with a small nod, her hand brushing my arm again, lingering a beat longer this time. "I'm not saying it's wrong," she whispered, her voice barely there, her eyes locked on mine. "I'm just saying, I see it too, and I'm done looking away." The world tilted. Her words hit like a slow, heavy wave. Not shocking, but true. I'd been caught, not just for staring, but for the pull underneath. The attraction I'd fought all night. And here she was, owning it too. Tearing down the wall I'd always thought stood between us. "Nora," I said, my voice rough, barely over the music. "You're Jasper's mom." It was a weak defense, a reflex, and I regretted it instantly. Her face didn't change, but her eyes softened, raw light flickering there. She stepped closer, so near I caught her subtle scent, floral and warm. "I know," she said, firm but low, like sharing a secret. "But if you still only see me as Jasper's mom, do us both a favor. Stop looking at me like I'm a woman, because it's hard to ignore when you do that." She paused, her breath quickening, then added, "But if that's not how you see me anymore, then look again, Miles, just once more." I stood frozen, the party's hum turning to a dull roar. Her words weren't flirtation, weren't tossed out lightly. They were deliberate, weighted with a year of solitude, of rebuilding after a marriage in ruins. I saw it in her eyes that ached to start over, to be seen for who she was now, not who she'd been. My throat closed up, my mind spinning. I wanted to tell her I didn't see her as just Jasper's mom anymore, that it had built for a while. But the words felt too big, too risky. Before I could answer, Jasper's voice sliced through. "Hey, Miles! Get over here, we're doing group shots!" He waved from across the patio, his grin wide and clueless. Nora stepped back, her hand leaving my arm. Her face slipped into that polite, composed smile she wore for the world. "Go on," she murmured, nodding toward him. "Don't keep him waiting." I hesitated, chest tight, but she turned away, picking up her empty glass like nothing had happened. I forced my feet to move, joined Jasper and the others, smiled for the camera, while my head stayed tangled in her words, in the way her voice had trembled just enough to tell me she meant it. The rest of the night blurred into photos, toasts, and Jasper's booming laughs. But I couldn't shake her. Every glance toward the bar found her there, chatting with someone new, her smile easy but distant. And each time, that pull hit me. The impossible, quiet thing she'd laid bare. She'd seen me looking, and instead of shutting the door, she'd swung it wide. I didn't know if I was ready to walk through, but I knew I couldn't pretend she wasn't there anymore. The days after the graduation party felt like a haze. Jasper's laughs, the clink of glasses, the glow of those lights. It all faded, drowned out by Nora's whispered words at the bar. "If that's not how you see me anymore, then look again, Miles." I replayed them on loop. Each time, the same jolt, the same twist of guilt and want. I tried for normalcy, packing up my apartment, sending job apps, grabbing chicken wings with Jasper at our usual spot, but nothing fit. Like Nora had cracked something open in me, and I didn't know how to seal it back. My phone buzzed with a text. It was her. Simple. Direct. "If you want to return that look, I'll be at the bakery near campus at 11. My heart slammed against my ribs. I read it twice, 3 times, half hoping it'd vanish. Part of me wanted to ignore it, pretend the party was just a fleeting whim, but the part that kept seeing her brown eyes, her quiet strength, knew I'd show. I grabbed my jacket, hands shaking, and headed out. The bakery was a cozy little hole in the wall. Exposed brick walls, mismatched chairs, thick with the scent of fresh bread and coffee. Nora was already at an outdoor table under a striped awning, sunglasses propped in her blonde hair, sipping an espresso, book open in front of her. But her eyes lifted as I approached. "Miles," she said, her voice warm but cautious, like testing the water. "You came." I slid into the seat across from her, throat tight. "Yeah," I said, managing a half smile. "Hard to ignore a text like that." She laughed softly, a sound that eased the knot in my chest. "I wasn't sure you would," she admitted, setting down her cup. "After the other night, I thought I'd scared you off." Her eyes met mine, honest, searching, and I saw that mix of vulnerability and resolve that had hooked me at the party. "You didn't scare me," I said, my voice lower than I meant, "just surprised me. I didn't see it coming." She nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. "Me neither." We talked for a bit, the words flowing easy at first, like old friends catching up. She asked about my job hunt, my plans now that school was done. I asked about her freelance work, how she was settling into life after the split. But an undercurrent pulled at us, an attraction we skirted but didn't name. Our knees brushed under the table. Neither of us moved. Her hand rested near mine, close enough to feel its warmth. Every look, every small gesture, said more than our words. Then she leaned forward, her voice dropping low. "Miles, I need to be clear," she said, eyes fixed on mine. "I'm not the kind of woman you should chase. I'm 42. I have a son your age. A marriage that crashed and left me picking up pieces I still am. I'm not easy." She paused, lips pressing together like she was weighing the rest. "But I'm done living like I'm just Jasper's mom, or the woman who smiles and says everything's fine when people ask. I'm done being polite. I want to feel something real." My chest tightened, her words echoing the ache I'd carried since the party. I wanted to reach across the table, tell her I saw her, really saw her. But the weight of it all, Jasper, the age gap, the impossible, held me back. Instead, I leaned in, my voice steady but quiet. "Do you want to be seen as a woman, Nora? Not as Jasper's mom, not as anything else. Just you." Her eyes softened, raw light flashing there. She took a slow sip of espresso, then set the cup down with a soft clink. "Not just a woman," she whispered, voice barely audible. "The woman you're afraid to admit to anyone." The words sparked, igniting what I'd buried. I didn't know what to say, so I held her gaze. Let the moment stretch. The bakery buzzed around us, baristas calling orders, plates clattering, but it felt like we were alone, caught in a space where nothing else mattered. "I don't know what this is," I said finally, voice rough. "But I don't want to look away either." She smiled then. Not wide, but real. The kind that squeezed my chest. "Good," she murmured softly, "because neither do I." We stayed another hour, talking about everything and nothing. Her favorite book. My disastrous attempt to fix a carburetor last summer. But it wasn't the words that mattered. It was the way her hand brushed mine passing a napkin. The way her eyes lingered when I laughed. When we finally stood to leave, the sun was climbing, the air warming. But the space between us felt closer, more fragile. Walking to her car, she glanced at me, sunglasses back down, hiding her eyes. "This stays between us," she said. Not a question, a quiet agreement. I nodded. Just us. And with that, we stepped back into the world, carrying something unspoken, something new. The weeks after that bakery lunch felt like stepping into a parallel world, one where Nora and I carved out a secret, quiet space, untouched by anyone else. We started finding excuses to meet, always careful, always discreet. I'd offer to help with odd jobs at her place, fixing a wobbly kitchen cabinet, hanging a new painting in her living room, assembling a shelf for her growing stack of novels. She'd text out of the blue, "Want coffee? Free for dinner?" framing it casual, like old friends making up for lost time. But we both knew it was more. It showed in the way her hand lingered, handing me a mug, in how our talks stretched late into the night, or how we'd sit a little too close on her couch, sharing a playlist of old Fleetwood Mac tracks she loved. Her house became a haven, a place the outside world couldn't touch. It was a modest two-story just off the main road, with a small garden she tended, and a kitchen that always smelled of herbs and fresh bread. She'd cook simple meals for me, homemade spaghetti sauce, vegetable soup, dinners that felt like care, not effort. We'd eat at her table, chatting about books or movies, but the silences spoke loudest. We could sit without words. Just the hum of the fridge or the distant chirp of crickets outside, and it filled with meaning. Like we didn't need talk to get each other. Still, a shadow hung over us. Jasper, my best friend, her son, the one who tied us and tore us apart. I'd see him at the bar or gym, same as always, jokes flying, plans for our next hangout, totally blind to the secret I carried. Every time he mentioned her, "Mom's doing better since the split," my gut twisted. Guilt mixing with something deeper, something I wouldn't name. I'd lie awake nights, wondering if I was betraying him, if what Nora and I shared was worth the risk. But then I'd see her, and the doubts quieted, smothered by the way she looked at me like I was more than Miles, Jasper's buddy. One evening, I was at her place installing a new fixture in the hallway. The air was warm, windows open to the soft summer hum. She handed me a screwdriver, her fingers grazing mine, and I caught her watching me, those brown eyes steady but soft. "You don't have to keep coming back, she said, her voice light but serious. "I'm not helpless." I set the screwdriver down, turning to her. "I know you're not," I replied. "I'm here because I want to be." She held my gaze, lips parting slightly like she was measuring her words. We ended up on the couch, a vinyl spinning low, an old Coldplay album she'd picked. Talk turned to her life before the split. Years of playing the perfect wife, the ideal mom, until it all crumbled. "I lost part of myself along the way," she murmured, voice low, hands folded in her lap. "I don't want to do that again." I nodded, chest tight. "You won't," I said. "Not with me." It was the closest we'd come to naming it, and it hung there, fragile but real. Then she asked the question that chilled me. "If Jasper finds out," she said, voice a breath, "who do you think he'll hate more, me or you?" I froze, the weight settling like stone. I wanted an easy answer, to brush it off. But her eyes demanded truth. "I think," I said slowly, "he'd understand. In time. If he saw you happy, really happy. But if you're not, Nora, none of this is worth it." Her eyes glistened, not quite tears, but close. Something she held back. She reached out, covering my hand with hers, squeezed hard, like anchoring herself. We didn't kiss that night, didn't cross any line too big to uncross, but when I left, she walked me to the door, and her hug lasted longer than it should. Arms tight around me, cheek against my shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered so low, I almost missed it. I didn't ask for what, just nodded, throat too full to speak. Anne stepped into the night. The air was cool, stars sharp overhead, but all I felt was the warmth of her touch, the weight of her words, and the quiet truth that whatever this was, it was real. And it was ours. Summer stretched on, hot and lazy, but it felt different now, like every moment carried the promise of what Nora and I had started. Our meetups kept coming careful, tucked into the quiet corners of our lives, a coffee on the edge of town, a late-night drive with no destination, her kitchen table with 2 mugs and a shared silence that said more than words. Each time I saw her, it peeled back another layer, not just of her, but of me. I'd spent years keeping people at arm's length, afraid to get too close. But with Nora, I didn't want to pull back, not even when guilt crept in, whispering Jasper's name. Jasper stayed, Jasper oblivious, scheming his next adventure. He'd landed an internship in New York, a big leap toward the finance career he chased. We grabbed beers the night before he left. He buzzed with excitement talking Brooklyn apartments, city chaos. "You gotta visit, man," he said, grinning over his pint. "You'll love it." I nodded, forcing a smile. But my head was with Nora. Then, casual as anything, he added, "Hey, Mom's kinda on her own now. If you're around, drop by. Dinner or something. She'd like that." My heart stopped, but I kept my face even. "Yeah, sure," I said, voice easy. "I'll look out for her." He clapped my shoulder, no clue what his words did. That night, I showed up at Nora's with a bottle of red, the kind she'd mentioned liking during one of our late sessions. The air hung heavy with cut grass and blooming jasmine from her garden. I knocked. She opened. Blonde hair loose, a smudge of flour on her cheek from kneading dough. She smiled, not surprised, like she'd known I'd come. "Miles," she said, stepping aside. "You're spoiling me with this." She nodded at the wine, her eyes warm but watchful, like she was still learning to let me in. The kitchen glowed soft, 2 glasses already on the table, like she'd expected me. She poured the wine. Saturday. Bread cooling on a rack nearby, its warmth filling the room. We didn't hit Jasper first, or the internship, or the party that started it all. We talked small things, her latest sci-fi novel she couldn't put down, my interview at a local engineering firm. But the words carried new weight, like we both waited for the other to name what we dodged. Finally, she set her glass down, fingers tracing the stem. "Jasper called today," she said softly. "He's pumped for New York, said you should visit." I nodded, throat tight. "Yeah," he mentioned. She looked at me, brown eyes direct and probing. "He also said you should look out for me." A quick smile flickered, like I'm some lonely old lady needing a babysitter. I laughed, but it came out strained. "He's just watching out for you," I said. She shook her head, smile fading. "I know, but I don't want to be watched, Miles, or protected. I want to live, really live. And for the first time in a long while, I feel like I am." Her words landed hard, not because they were new, but because they rang true. I saw it in her, the new lightness in her stance, like she was claiming back what she'd lost. I reached across the table, covering her hand. She didn't pull away. "You're not old," I said, voice low. "And you're not alone, not with me." Her eyes softened. For a beat, she said nothing. Just let her hand stay under mine, warm, steady. Then she spoke, voice a murmur. I hate the phrase, starting over. It makes it sound like everything before was a mistake. I don't want to start over, Miles. I just want to keep going. But this time, with someone walking beside me. Not behind. Her words cut raw, unfiltered. They pierced me. I squeezed her hand, chest knotted with something nameless, hope, maybe, or fear of what it meant. "Then let me walk beside you," I said, voice steady despite the storm in my head. "No one has to know. Not yet. Let's just see where it goes." She looked at me, eyes shining but not spilling over, and nodded. "Okay," she whispered softly, "just us. For now." We didn't move from the table, didn't kiss, didn't need to. The wine went untouched, the bread forgotten. We sat there, hands linked, the silence between us louder than any vow. Outside, night fell quiet, stars sharp against the dark. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was hiding. I felt right where I belonged. In the twists of life, where hearts bump against the invisible walls of expectations and roles we didn't choose, my story with Nora whispers a deep truth. The courage to see someone beyond the labels. Picture it. A woman of 42, shaped by the scars of a broken marriage. No longer just Jasper's mom, but a soul seeking rebirth. A woman with brown eyes that catch the glow of string lights like a silent call to be real. And me, Miles, 23, engineer just starting out, caught in the spin of what-ifs, daring to look not at a parental shadow, but at a vibrant presence. Solitary, yet so alive. Our connection sparked from a stolen glance at that graduation party. It teaches that real feeling, or at least the spark that warms a cold soul, ignores calendars and family ties. It blooms when you stop running, when you embrace the raw edges as strength, when you choose to walk side by side, hand in hand, no matter the shadows of guilt or judgment. That lesson hits hard. It makes you ask your own heart, how many times have we let fear of what if smother a truth calling out? In a world full of lonely flickers like shooting stars in the dark, daring to really see someone deeply reclaims a vital freedom. It's admitting life isn't a stiff script, but a poem unfolding, where every risky line weaves bonds that make us whole. Let this story echo in you. It's not just a tale of forbidden lines, it's a song to brave tenderness, to the softness that mends the unseen, breaks in us. And if, like me, you take that step into the unknown, if you let your heart lead instead of society's chains, share in the comments. What's that unexpected connection that changed your world? That glance that shifted everything? Your words could light up so many searching souls. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. Don't miss these stories that touch the heart. Click, ring the bell, join our circle of open hearts. Together, let's write the next chapters. See you soon, with feeling.